You talked about 5-12 last year. Do you have more, less, or about the same level of confidence in the Chicago Bears entering 2025?
Well, they're out there buying a team, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the chemistry is a mess when you do this and you bring in these free agents and it doesn't pan out, and sometimes it does. Well, they're going the route of buying the team here. They have a lot of cap space and they're using it. And their offensive line, Joe Thuney, that's a nice pickup. Jonah Jackson, a little bit of a question mark. Only played 4 games last year. Drew Dalman, that's a good pickup. And Jonah Jackson, when he didn't play well because I think he was playing out of position on the Rams. They'll probably put him back at his natural position, and maybe he'll play better. So maybe that works out. And they don't want Caleb Williams running for his life on every play, and that's kind of what happened last year with almost 70 sacks. That was a joke. They had their offensive line was a sieve. So their offensive line should be better. They're making moves to improve the O-line. They did it. So they got Thuney for a 2026 4th-round pick. That's a steal. Jonah Jackson for the Rams, a 2025 5th-round pick. Then maybe I'm not so sure about that one. The Bears not waiting for free agency, making these 2 trades to improve their O-line. Thuney, 32 years old, will help reduce the 68 sacks that Caleb Williams suffered in 2024. All these guys on the offensive line are going to make that line better because it was terrible last year. The Chiefs are a worse team, I think, without Thuney, but that's a topic for a different discussion. You look at the money that the Bears have spent here. They got Jonah Jackson, that's $17.5 million, $8.5 million guaranteed. They're taking up the final 2 years of the contract he had. They got him for a 5th-round pick. Ben Johnson knows him because he was with the Lions for 4 years as an All-Pro before he went to the Rams. Thuney, $16 million 1 year for a 4th-round pick. Dahmer, 3 years, $42 million, $28 million guaranteed. We didn't even talk about the defense. You mentioned the 2 interior linemen. Grady Jarrett, 3 years, $43.5 million. This next guy, I can't pronounce his last name. He's got 3 years, $48 million. The cap space, they started with $80 million. They're down to $37.8 million already, and the free agency hasn't officially even opened. So, they're buying the team. Do I think they'll be better? I think they'll be marginally better. They were 5-12 last year, but I don't think they're going to have I still don't think they're going to have a winning record. And they're not going to make the playoffs in 2025, even with this
Really?
What looks like a massive improvement. And I'll tell you why. Let me go down through the
another
list.
Bears hot take.
Let me
go for
let me go down through their schedule, which is very challenging. Right? They open with the Lions. I don't think they'll win that game. Then they play the Packers. I don't think they'll win that game. Then they're playing the Vikings. I think they will win that game because the Vikings are going to be in kind of a reset with the quarterback situation, and they're probably going with J.J. McCarthy. The Cowboys, I think they could win that game too because the Cowboys' new head coach.
We're 2-2
a lot of questions there. I think they'll beat the Giants.
They have a winning record.
Yeah, and I think they'll beat the Browns. Right,
4-2. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then I think they'll lose to the Steelers. I think they'll beat the Saints.
5-3.
So they're a lot like last year. They start out what looks like pretty good, and they started out 4-2. They started out 4-2 last year, right?
The schedule isn't
so
released.
Here they are now. They're 5-3. Then they play the Lions again. I don't think you're going to win that game. And then they play the Packers. I think with the improvement in their team, they'll play better in the division this year. They played terrible in the division last year, so I think they'll play a little better. I think they will beat the Packers.
6-4.
Yeah, but I think the Vikings will beat them in the second round because McCarthy will have his legs under him by then. They're not going to beat the Eagles, right? They're not going to beat the Commanders. They're not going to beat the Ravens. They're not going to beat the Bengals, and they're not going to beat the 49ers. They will beat the Raiders in the last game of the season, so they're 7-10.
7-10.
7-10.
Wow. First of all, pronunciation, Dayo Odeyingbo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I would never have gotten that right.
So, I said they'd go 7-10 last year because I had faith in a lot of the pieces and the offensive line, which I said would need improvement and need growth. I apparently underestimated that because they needed a lot of growth and a lot of improvement. And that's exactly what they got. They got Jonah Jackson, who during his time with the Detroit Lions was a Pro Bowler. He was a phenomenal player. You got Joe Thuney, who's been the best offensive guard for a number of seasons now, so much so he moved to left tackle and was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. He was playing out of position. You decided to get Drew Dalman from the Falcons, who was one of the highest-rated centers in the NFL last year and was probably the biggest he was the number one center in free agency this year. So you've covered your entire interior offensive line, which was a massive issue because you had holes every which way. So, and I think that will, not only will that obviously help with pass blocking, that will also help with Caleb Williams' allowed pressures of himself. Because if we take a look at it, he was actually one of the highest quarterbacks. When you say allowed pressures, basically he generated the pressure himself. He was one of the guys. He also gave himself the most pressures for himself. I want to make sure I get this number correct for everybody out there. He gave himself 38 pressures just because of him. QB allowed pressures. So the offensive line obviously needed improvement, and that's exactly what they did, so very good for them. The defensive line, you want to shore that up? I have no problem. Grady, Jarrett, the Falcons released him. You picked him up for a decent number. I don't mind that at all. You shore up your defense along with Odeyingbo. Perfectly fine with all of that. But I am very pleased with the fact that they decided to make these moves, get some of the top prospects in free agency now. Jonah Jackson gone for dirt cheap. Joe Thuney, after being like the number 3 ranked guard in the NFL, you get him for dirt cheap? A future pick, might I add. Not even 2025. It's a future pick, 2026. So, and I know you got to pay him, but to get the third best graded guard in the NFL, I mean, why not? Your team needs it. And then you ended up getting the best center in free agency, Drew Dalman. Perfectly fine with that. I think he was number 2 or number 3 highest rated guard because Creed Humphrey was number 1. Here's where my concern goes now. These were moves made in free agency. That means Ryan Poles sucks at drafting because you need to buy these players you can't draft and develop very well. And I still have issue with their 2 tackles, Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. I now am very concerned about those 2 because that's your blind side, and one of those is your blind side. So as long as you fix that and you shore up that and you let them grow, I mean, you have a shot there. Matt Eberflus, people complain about him being a coach. Did it get better with Thomas Brown and a plethora of other coaches? Not really. It didn't really get much better. And we could talk about that Thanksgiving game, but I'm sitting there waiting for, we've had massive debates about this. Caleb Williams is waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Yes, Matt Eberflus could have called timeout, but everybody was set. Just snapped the damn ball. He didn't, and then they ended up losing that game. So you have a new coach. Ben Johnson should be a massive improvement over Matt Eberflus, help Caleb Williams out offensively, but I think this offensive line shores up not only just the overall offensive line in its entirety, because I think this also helps in the ground game as well, because if we take a look at the numbers here, the Bears running guard to guard last year, so running between the guards, 30th in yards per carry, 30th in EPA per rush, 29th in success rate, and 31st in explosive run rate. So DeAndre Swift, who we expected to be a pretty good acquisition for the Bears, entering last year, trying to run interior, like you're trying to run in the interior, he was arguably the worst running back in that situation. So that shores up very, very. That ensures great pass blocking, great run blocking, and it helps Caleb Williams' confidence out. Because it helps him stay in the pocket a little bit longer, stop generating those QB allowed pressures there. So I love these. I love these moves. So I have a significant, a much higher level of confidence than I had even last year.
Okay.
I do have them making the playoffs.
Wow.
I do.
So tell me so let's go
8
down
and 9.
to the
I'm going
list.
8 and 9.
8 and 9. They make the playoffs.
Oh,
8 and 9.
8 and 9 makes the playoffs.
I don't think 8 and 9
because
is going to make the playoffs.
I'm going to tell you exactly why. I'm going to tell you why. I think right now Seattle win 10 and 7. They're going to take a massive step backwards. They have nobody on their roster right now, and Sam Darnold's your starting quarterback with a defensive head coach. They're going to take a massive step back. I think right now, Philly, while I think they're going to be good, they are losing a bunch of key people. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost Milton Williams. They lost Josh Sweat. They lost Oren Burks. They're losing a bunch of key guys. You still have, obviously, your structure there. A.J. Brown, a great
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley. By the way,
Just Jalen Hurts.
Last year today, he signed.
A.J. Brown.
Right, offensively, they're fine.
Devontae Smith.
Right, offensively, they're fine. Dallas Goedert, Calcaterra, I understand.
Dallas Goedert.
But also, just a little tidbit. It was today, last year, that Saquon signed his deal with the Eagles. Just want to put that out there. But I think the Eagles are not going to be 14-3. I don't think they're going to repeat that. Washington could be interesting, but will they go 12-5 again? I'm going to side on.
They're not going to go 8-9. Neither are the Eagles.
Hold on. I'm not saying each of those teams could go 8-9. What I'm saying is that they're going to take a step back.
Yeah, but they're still going to be.
Is Minnesota going to go 14-3?
No.
Are the Packers going to go 11-6? Maybe.
They missed a chance to get Devontae Adams.
I think that there is an opening because now we're seeing mid teams rise a little bit and good teams crashing. Because Minnesota's not going to go 14-3. There's a shot they win 7 games. And that's honestly shouldn't be surprising to a lot of people. So I think that there's a shot. Is it a definite, foregone conclusion? No. I think that with these pieces and with the high confidence level and with competency at your head coaching position, you get the turnstiles moving, you get the cogs turning, the conveyor belt moving.
Okay, so
8-9.
8-9. So what game do you have them winning that I didn't?
Okay, well let me go.
Think they beat the Lions?
I think they do split with the Lions.
Split with the Lions. Okay, that
So
would
one
give them
win,
8.
one loss.
That would give them 8-9.
Well, let me go through it because maybe
You think they beat the Vikings once?
I do.
Okay, Cowboys. You think they win?
Yes.
Giants.
Yes.
Browns.
Yes.
Steelers.
No,
I had
I'm gonna say
no.
lose the defense.
Saints.
Yep.
Lions.
I already had them splitting.
Split. Packers.
I think they. Yeah, I think.
So
I
the
think
reason,
they'll
the
lose.
way they're getting their wins from 5-8 to 8-9, they're splitting instead of losing every game against their rivals in their division. They're splitting with every team. That's how they get the 8.
Yeah. I think there's a shot because think about this. Even with Matt Eberflus, they were that close to beating the Lions on Thanksgiving. Like I want to make sure that everybody understands it. With Matt Eberflus, who nobody likes, they were literally stupid miscommunication.
One more question
away.
for you. Then.
Yeah, go for it.
You have a lot of confidence in Ben Johnson as a head coach.
Of course I do.
Well, he's never been a head coach before.
But he led a Lions team that had no hope for several years and were the biggest disappointments in the NFL for several years to being one of the most beloved franchises currently in the NFL.
You know what? It took that group of coaches quite a while to get the Lions to the elite level.
When you go from
Aaron Glenn
garbage
was there when they were
Super Bowl contender,
but they were pretty bad.
In 3 years,
they were pretty bad for several years with that coaching team.
Well, no, hold on. They had one bad year when they went 3-13. I think it was 3-13-1 with Dan Campbell.
You don't think that could happen to the Bears in the first year with Ben Johnson?
The Bears before that were trash. They were always trash. They made the wild card a couple here and there, but they never won a playoff game for several years. They never led their division for, 30 years?
Yeah, they're in a very tough division again next year.
Correct, they are, absolutely.
They have a very difficult schedule.
But we also have to look at the Lions. They're losing basically their entire coaching staff. And they're hiring from within, trying to keep that same culture. But they still have their head
coach. They still have their culture guy.
Right, Dan Campbell's their culture guy, so he's going to need to will them even more. And will Jared Goff still have a tremendously effective year they did last year? Will Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery have the two tandem of Sonic and Knuckles? Will they still have that? Will Sam Laporta have another good year? Will Amon-Ra St. Brown be a top receiver again? There's a bunch of question marks, and that you can say that for every team. But the fact that the Lions went 15-2, and then in the first level of playoff action, they got whooped badly, really badly to the Washington Commanders. It was embarrassing to a rookie quarterback.
I think that's
to an inferior team.
I think that part of that was the injuries on defense caught up.
Very well could be. And the question is, what's saying that won't happen again?
Well, they're going to be healthier, I would think, than they were last year.
I hope they are. I picked them in the Super Bowl last year.
Insane number of injuries.
22 guys on IR at one time.
Yeah. And they still managed to get the 1 seed.
Correct.
So
Correct.
The head coach has a lot to do with their success.
Absolutely.
And
I'm saying there's
culture.
a shot. I'm saying it's one win more than you. So it's not like I'm going crazy.
Yeah.
The only asterisk I have is 7 seed. That's the only difference. That's the only major
I don't
difference.
see them making with a losing record.
Do you think the Seahawks would go 10? I didn't. I didn't see the Seahawks go.
No, but did any team?
I didn't see the 49ers being the worst division in the NFC West.
When was the last time a team made the playoffs with an 8-9 record? Hasn't been. It's happened, but not recently. I think generally it's going to be winning records to make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be a losing record making the playoffs, particularly in that division.
Well, I mean, okay, how about this? If it were the
I mean, you can have
AFC
every team.
how could I forget? Tom Brady's last year, NFC South, they went 8-9. They lost to the Cowboys, got blown out by the Cowboys.
Yeah.
That was the last year that it happened. And that same year, Jacksonville made it with a 9-8 record. So it's not. It's.
I could see
and
9
also
and 8,
the
but I
Dolphins
don't
made
see
with a
8 and
9.
9. I don't see 8 and 9.
Well, maybe, but I'm saying there's a shot because you now have rebuilt your offensive line. You still have DJ Moore. You still have Roma Dunze. Caleb Williams is still a generational talent. Hate that word, but generational talent. DeAndre Swift's still in the backfield.
The defense is better.
Defense
probably.
should still be. You have Grady, Jarrett, and you have Dayo. I'm going to screw this name up. Odeyingbo. So there's pieces there. It's just about, again, performance. We've seen the 49ers. You have the pieces, but
Who's
lack
their
of performance.
defensive coordinator this year?
I would need to look at that. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I think the question mark is Ben Johnson. Is he going to be a good head coach? Nobody knows. He's a rookie.
Oh, Dennis Allen. How the hell could I forget?
All right.
Dennis Allen.
Yeah. He was a
Don't know if
loser,
I like
it's the
that one
same.
either. Don't know if I like
that. Yeah. I don't see them. I don't see them making the playoffs or having a winning record. 7-10. That's what I'm predicting.
That was my prediction last year. I was
maybe the draft. We'll see who they get in the draft, but I don't know. Did they have a good pick?
What they have a top 10
should.
pick. I think we have it here. They have the 10th pick.
10th pick.
So there's a shot.
Who do you think they'll go? Offensive lineman, probably.
No. If I had to take a wild guess, I'm probably way wrong. I'd have to go best available, or if T-Mac won't be out there, I may go T-Mac. Because you're probably not going to bring back Keenan Allen. He's open to returning, but I would say T-Mac might be a very good option. I believe he's Arizona State
if he's still
receiver.
there.
Right, because I think that the Panthers could look at him. The Jets, they right now, Xavier Gibson is their number 2 because Alan Lazard's going to be released. That might be a good one as well. Although, offensive tackle could be out there because you don't have a great right tackle right now.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
offensive lineman.
Well, I said that for the Jets. I'm saying that for the Jets.
I'm saying for the Bears because they still have 2 of their carryover offensive linemen.
Honestly,
worst line
because the Raiders
and
now,
that could be injuries. So and
the
they
Raiders
want
don't
to
need a
protect.
quarterback.
Their number 1 goal is to protect Caleb Williams.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
but that means that even though, well, first of all, the just Ryan Poles drafts well, which we've just seen now, Ryan Poles can't do it because they had to buy everybody. So I don't have faith in your GM now because if you can't draft and develop guys, what does that say about how you do it in the future? Ryan Poles right now, I think, is on even a very short leash now.
you would think that they would get a good player at number 10, even if they. If the best available probably is the best choice.
I think that's probably what they're going to do. But it really depends because there's several avenues a number of these teams could do. Because, for instance, Jacksonville, your defense was garbage. Are you going to draft Will Johnson? Are you going to go Mason Graham from Michigan? There's a bunch of these guys that you could draft. So the Patriots, what are they going to do? Are they going to go defense, although they just picked up a bunch of defenders? You're going to go Travis Hunter if he's available. Or are you going to trade back? There's a bunch of pieces that could be moved. There's a bunch of draft picks that could be selected based on the 9 picks ahead of you. Although 2 quarterbacks.
Maybe with what the Patriots have done in free agency, they trade down. Maybe they pick up more
if
picks.
Travis Hunter's available and you trade down,
yeah, well,
I swear that'd be a Bill Belichick move. That would absolutely be a Bill Belichick move.
but Travis Hunter can play defense.
So then Belichick would make him a cornerback, and that would piss him off. 100%. He wants to be that two-way player. He's not going to be able to play 70 snaps on either end, but who knows? 8-9 makes the playoffs.
7
a lot of
and 10
optimism.
Doesn't make it.
It's been maybe people will respect you a little bit more after that 5-12 pick.
I was right.
You were right. I was astonished. I'm not going to lie. I was
Why
shocked.
were you astonished?
Because you was at 5-12 for a team that just got the number one. That's
because I knew their
pick.
coaching staff stunk, and I think their offensive line was porous, and they brought in a lot of pieces that hadn't played together. There was no chemistry.